Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex. And now that Mephisto is out as a playable character and I've already made a couple videos ranking him up and playing him, I thought it would be smart to make a video explaining my 5 best teams to tackle Mephisto. So if you already have a lot of tier 3s but you haven't yet figured out the right combinations to take down Mephisto, or if you're still building up to it but you want to figure out, okay, this is my plan for my next tier 3 or my next transcended character because I want to aim for Mephisto in the future, this video will help you out. So this is for, current veterans, but also the future veterans watching as well. So let's do it. Let's jump into this. Let's dive in, and I'm going to talk about the 5 teams that I use, what their strengths are, some other teams that you can use if you don't have these characters necessarily, and then I'm going to show you really fast runs on stage 1 just so you can get a hang for the flow of the combat and how I utilize these characters. So the first team here, keep in mind, because Mephisto is blast type, I try to stay away from using any combat types at all unless I'm just using them for a team up bonus or a leadership. That is basically one of the things that I'm going to be highlighting, and that is what makes characters like Moon Knight, Carnage, Venom, Mr. Fantastic, Iron Fist much worse for this fight, whereas they can definitely do well against Null. Even though they can do decently against Mephisto, why struggle? If you can just do it faster with a blast, speed, or universal type, just do that, right? That's just what I think. You want to make it as easy for yourself as possible. Also, keep in mind, you don't have to go past stage 1. I know that you might feel pressure to, or you might think there are better rewards, and there's more XP for the Conqueror to get those rewards faster, just like there is for every other world boss. And once you get to stage 20, which is a long way away for most players, you do get a chance for blue booty boxes that can drop premium cards and CTPs, but you can still get a ton of CCF on stage 1. So don't stress yourself out and just run what you can run. This is the first team here, utilizing Doctor Strange's leadership, and then I have 2 transcended characters. In this case, I'm using Gambit and Moonstone because they just clap cheeks. Honestly, Moonstone can just carry this one by herself, and Doctor Strange's leadership is just for extra damage. Ignore Dodge does help against Mephisto a little bit because I believe he's native tier 3, so he might be above level 70, but it's not as important as it is for Null. For Null, you need to get 70, 80, 90, 100% ignore Dodge. You definitely don't need to do that for Mephisto. A little bit helps for sure, but you don't need to worry about it too much. So in this case, you don't necessarily need to go with Doctor Strange's leadership, but this is one of the better ones that I have. And Doctor Strange is a pretty decent character as well. And just in case, for some reason Moonstone and Gambit both die, Doctor Strange can kind of finish it off. So, and plus I just like Doctor Strange. It's thematic, Doctor Strange versus Mephisto. Second team that I use here, I think this is one of the best characters, period, against Mephisto. Probably the best. We have Rogue. Now, this team is amazing because you don't need to use Valkyrie necessarily. So again, I can just drop to a lower stage and move Valkyrie out if you don't have her as a support. You can use Cyclops leadership, and I think there might be a team up if you bring in another X-Men. You can use Winter Soldier for the 30% physical attack. You can use Hulk if you swap his uniform out, because the Immortal Hulk is all defense, but the other ones is 30% attack. So there's lots of flexibility for her leadership that you can take advantage of. You can use Magneto as well, and then Rogue just annihilates Mephisto. She just annihilates him. So much damage, so much defense, so much healing, and she has the type advantage. So rack up her type enhancement and just go crush Mephisto with your Rogue. If you don't have her, I strongly recommend getting her because she's amazing for all PvE content. Basically, she's best in slot for squad battle. She's best in slot for Mephisto. She's really good for Null. She's just like she's like not bad at all for ABX. She's really a gem. Next up, we have this team, and again, similar to the other team before, you're just putting in a blast leadership and then 2 bangers that do blast damage. So Cable and Sharon are both really good. Again, you don't necessarily need both of them, so I could sub out Cable and just put in any third. You could put Captain America for a team up with his daughter. You could put somebody for a team up with Star-Lord, doesn't really matter. I could swap Star-Lord's lead and Doctor Strange's lead in case one team needs it more than the other. So there's a lot of flexibility here. The thing you need to know is Sharon, big damage, win. Moonstone, big damage, win. Gambit and Cable are basically supports for the gals to make sure that they get it done. And they also have movement speed. That's important. Sharon's kind of slow, so you don't want to pair Sharon up with someone who's also slow. Cable's really fast. That's also why I don't actually use Cyclops as a leadership here in my 5 runs, because he's kind of slow. He has a great leadership, but he's just kind of slow. And his damage is really low in case things get really bad. Sometimes you lose 2 characters by accident to Mephisto, and then you're kind of boned. Fourth here, this is a brand new team, so I don't want to talk too much about this one. You probably don't have, Thing and Human Torch transcended, but yeah, Human Torch is amazing. He can use double support because he just does so much raw damage. It's insane. It's bonkers. And his leadership is actually good against Mephisto because he has the damage. You don't need to worry about giving him a damage lead So you can go ahead and give him 50% fire resist. 50% fire resist, you'll see I won't take any damage from Mephisto. It's insane. And I'll talk about that when we get into the strikers later. I'm not covering the strikers right now team by team because it's not as rigid as it is for Null with the ignore dodge. So this team is sort of new, but if you have this team, even if you don't have Thing, like if you just have Mystique, this team is very, very good. You could swap in Thing. You could swap out Thing for Storm for the elemental damage, the 35%, as long as you have the new Inhumans versus X-Men uniform. This is a very, very good flexible team. The fifth team I have here, I know this is a very expensive team because of Null, but this team is very good. Some people look at this team and they get confused. It's just for the team up bonuses because Null doesn't need the actual support passives from, Valkyrie or Mystique. So we've got here, you'll see. We have the team up with Carnage, then we have the team up between Carnage and Dr. Octopus. So it's just 5% attack, 5% HP, 5% defense, and 5% recovery. And it's actually a really good team. I can go up into the teens with this team, given that I have a lot of Pierce. Now, I know this team is extremely expensive, so don't worry. I have a bunch of other teams for the 5th slot if you don't have these characters, or if you don't have, Human Torch and stuff. So another really good team that I like to use is this one right here. I know it's also expensive because you've got a native tier 2 and you've got Luna Snow as a premium, but this one is really, really good. You can obviously swap out Luna Snow for another elemental damage character, like let's say Human Torch, for example, or even Ghost Rider, because you're going to get that elemental bonus from Storm. And keep in mind, this team could be flexible for the future because if WandaVision is correct, she's going to be getting an upgrade. So I might not even need Luna anymore. I might be able to put like Vision in there for the team up bonus with Scarlet if she's going to get a tier 3, like the data mine on Reddit says. And then this team could just clap cheeks. You might not even... Actually, the nice thing is Storm synergizes with both Scarlet Witch and Luna, because she gives them both 35% elemental damage. Another really good team, and again, Storm can work on this team as well, is Beta Ray Bill and Thor. And again, you could put Storm here. You could also put Odin for the team up bonuses. So you get a bunch of team up bonuses for all these different stats, 10% attack speed, all this really good stuff. Again, this is the most expensive version of this team, but it's also pretty good. If you don't have him, you could obviously put in Medusa for the universal lead. But yeah, Thor is pretty good against Mephisto. I also like Cyclops plus 2 more. So you could say like, Cyclops, Gambit, and Iron Man, or Cyclops, Bullseye, and somebody else. You don't need to use Bullseye as a lead. I don't really like Bullseye, even though he's a speed type. I just don't really like the way he plays, so I don't like him against Mephisto. He doesn't have a heal. He doesn't have a lot of survivability. So yeah, it's funny. I actually don't use that many speed types against Mephisto. I just use Rogue, and then I use a bunch of Universals and Blasts. I've heard Gwenom is good. I've heard that. And Quicksilver's all right too, but yeah, I just feel like the Blasts just hit way harder, and they're just way more consistent. But so yeah, so those are the teams that I would use if you don't have those characters that I broke down here. But now, let me show you what these 5 clears look like in some really spicy... Oh, wait, we got to talk about the strikers. So the strikers for Mephisto, there's 3 things you want to remember. Well, there's 4 things you want to remember. The first thing you want to remember is movement speed. It's actually important to put 1 to 2 movement speed strikers on most of your teams. And as you can see here, I have Wasp here. And so these would be, for 5 different runs. I've got Corvus there. I've got Vision and Captain Marvel there. Again, if you can afford these strikers, right? Because if you use them as strikers, you can't use them in the clear. So remember that. You can't double dip. And then here I don't have any. But yeah, the movement speed strikers are actually pretty important. That's the first thing. The second thing, of course, is the increased damage dealt to supervillain strikers. Those are always really, really good because they're going to bump up your damage. Third thing you want to remember is actually damage reduction strikers. And there's 2 types of damage. There's actually 3 types of damage reduction strikers. There's the regular 10% damage reduction strikers, which are characters like Apocalypse that have the pure evil passive. So you can see their 10% damage decrease. Then you have the defenders, which are new. And of course, there's only 4 of them, but they will give you a 15% bonus rather than 10. So if you have the defenders and you're not using them for the fights, like Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, etc., you don't have to have them transcended, but they will give you a 50% bonus with their newest uniforms, I believe. I don't know if they have the Defenders tag without those new uniforms. And then the third type of damage reduction strikers you can use specifically against Mephisto, and they actually talked about this on Reddit, and I believe some content creators have covered it in videos, is the fire resist strikers. Now, be careful not to use Human Torch here, and which I did this, and then I wasn't able to use him on a team. You definitely don't want to do that. So yeah, be careful with that. But yeah, the fire damage, the fire resistance strikers are actually really good. I don't think they're here. They're really good because not only do they give you, if you're using fire damage, they're going to give you fire damage buff, so they can give you some offense if you're using Human Torch or you're using Ghost Rider, but they also give you 20% fire resistance. If you stack 5 of these strikers, as long as you have the characters, that's 100% fire resist. Mephisto does very little damage, so if survivability is your problem, if you can definitely do the damage, but survivability is your problem, you're not good at dodging attacks, you're not good at moving the joystick around or your reaction time or whatever, for whatever reason, you know, we're not all, I'm really bad at shooting games, for example, we're not all gifted in every type of game. Use fire resist strikers, they're really, really good. And then last but not least, don't forget the like god strikers, Ancient One, Venom, and Groot. Those 3 strikers can mean the difference between success and failure. Obviously, Ancient One is amazing. Basically, as long as you're standing in that circle, will instantly purge any burn damage. So you're never going to take burn damage. You'll take damage from the attacks, but you won't take that residual burn damage. You won't get snared by the tornadoes. You won't get time frozen. You won't take damage from the poison clouds. Like so many buffs, so many debuffs get rejected. And then, of course, Venom and Groot drop those heals for you to take advantage of. So we're going to jump in here with this first team. I think we're just going to use this first list of strikers because Moonstone's pretty fast and so is Gambit, so I don't have to worry about the movement speed, but I actually do want the damage reduction. So this is going to go really, really fast because I have a lot of Pierce now, and this is stage 1, but you basically just open up. Yeah, he's already in the next phase. You basically just open up with the Awakening skill, and then if you have 2 Awakened characters, you can actually just rotate into the next Awakened character skill and pop it off. Again, this is not meant to be like a long fight, so if it's going really fast, it's intended to go that fast. I don't want to make like a half-an-hour video, but yeah, this clear is pretty straightforward. If I'm in trouble, I definitely want to defer to Moonstone for the damage if I'm running out of time. But if I'm having trouble dodging, then I want to use Gambit because Gambit has good movement speed, and he also has movements while he's using his skills. So you can position yourself more carefully. And especially, this is kind of an important one. If you're running out of time, but you're almost there, with Gambit, you can kind of cheat at the end where even though he's enraged, for example, like let's see at this point, right? Instead of running to the rings, like let's say you're running to the rings, but you're running out of time. There's like 5 seconds left. Running to the rings is not going to save you because you have to hit the 5th ring and then Doctor Strange freezes them and then you start your rotation. You're going to run out of time. So what you would do in that case is just, well, don't get stunned, but and what you would do in that case is as you're running to the ring, you would just pop off his rotation. So characters like Gambit are going to be really good in that case because of that. Or you could just wait for his 3rd slam and then switch to Moonstone and then pop off the rotation really quickly. The reason why I like this team so much is because it's literally a hard carry for Rogue. I actually don't even need to use Valkyrie necessarily because Rogue just does so much damage. But I don't even bother switching for the most part unless Rogue is in a lot of trouble because she just does so much damage and wow. And she moves so fast. So not only does she do an insane amount of damage, but look, she just moves so fast that I can just position myself so easily, you know, to counter attack. And I'm doing the rotation wrong. I'm doing 3-5. It should be 3 cancel 4 cancel 5. But yeah, we're doing so much damage here. This is a lot of damage for sure, but honestly, wow, I just one-shot him. You can one-shot Mephisto from the top of the thing if you have enough Pierce. Interesting. Yeah, honestly, her damage is insane. If you haven't tier 3'd Rogue and you're having trouble with Mephisto and you want to just clap his cheeks, Rogue is seriously, arguably the best character for it. Just like for Null, I would say if you're using Sharon Rogers against Mephisto, definitely wait to get hit. And then also definitely use Ancient One as a striker. Ancient One is so good, so clutch for Sharon because you want to get hit, but you don't want to get interrupted, right? And so if things are going to interrupt you, guard break you. Actually, I don't think he's going to protect against guard break, but you sort of get what I'm saying, right? You don't want to get interrupted on that level. You just want to take damage. It's going to be a one-shot for sure. But yeah, Sharon is actually like ridiculously good. Even with low Pierce or no Pierce, Sharon is ridiculously good for Null because he racks up so much damage against her, and she just even more so than Null. Null is sort of like slow. He hits slower and he does fewer attacks, but he hits harder, which is fine. But Mephisto hits multiple times, which actually ends up accumulating more because you have such a low HP pool anyways. We're actually having some problems here. If you're having problems with Sharon, I recommend just switching to Cable because as you can see, his movement speed is actually a lot faster. So I actually do sometimes end up switching to Cable, especially if Sharon takes too much damage, because sometimes you're accumulating and you take too much damage with Sharon, and even though you heal with the 5, it's not enough. So sometimes I switch to Cable for a little while just to cool down, just to relax. Cable has the heal on 3, a little bit more consistent than Sharon's and a little bit quicker. So I switched to Cable for a few rotations, and then once Mephisto's calmed down and I know what his next move is and it's not going to be some killer attack, then I'll bring Sharon back in, let her start off with a 3-5, accumulate, get a heal, you know, get her wind back under her, get her legs back, and then go on clapping cheeks. Johnny actually doesn't need this this heal at all from Venom, and I think Johnny would actually be the best character to use the fire resist strikers, even though he already has 50% on his lead. Because if I give him more fire resist strikers like Inferno and Ghost Rider, or you know, Robbie Reyes or whatever, it's not only going to give him closer to 100% fire resist, but it's going to increase his damage, right? Because it's 20% resistance and 10% energy, 10% fire damage, right? So it actually serves as a 2-for-1 for him specifically, which means it's like even better. So yeah, if you're going to use someone like Human Torch, and honestly, he's actually so good against Mephisto, it's crazy. I would recommend using those fire resistance strikers. It's so nice that we're getting more striker variability. Like, it was really nice seeing the ignore dodge strikers come back against Null, because previously they had only been used against Quicksilver and Corvus, and people didn't play them that much anyways. Needing them against Null is so nice, and now seeing that the fire resist strikers are good against Mephisto, like legitimately good, it's a legitimate strategy, is actually so satisfying. One more type of striker that's actually kind of unsung is the Gamma family strikers. So it's only the 4 or 5, I believe, characters. You got Abomination, Hulk, Immortal Hulk, of course, She-Hulk, Red She-Hulk, and actually I don't even know if Red She-Hulk is on there. Red She-Hulk might be fire damage and fire resistance, but you also have Amadeus Cho, who will give you 10% all attack, which is fine. It's not quite as good as 10% increased damage to supervillains. It's not as good as that, but it's whatever. It's like 5% or 6% of that. But they also give you 5% all resist. 5% all resist translates into 5% fire resistance. So again, it's not as good as the fire resistance, fire damage striker if you do fire damage, but of course Null doesn't do fire damage, so you can't take advantage of the buff from Red Hulk. You can only take advantage of the defensive buff, so it's actually a pretty good alternative. So there's actually quite a lot of variety for strikers against Mephisto, which I actually really like. I think if I just do 2, he's just gonna die here. Yeah, Null's kind of crazy against Mephisto. Surprise, surprise. So yeah, those are my 5 teams. I actually think I talked more about 9 teams for Mephisto. There's a lot of variety, and I think there are fewer restrictions than there are against Null, which is nice because you don't have to worry so much about ignore dodge leaderships and ignore dodge passives and ignore dodge strikers. So yeah, take advantage of all those tools available to you, and maybe plan out some of your next tier 3s or transcended characters so that you can tackle this content, so you can unlock this absolutely brazy, badass character who is, you know, probably going to dominate the meta for a while. Thanks so much for watching. Hit me up in the comments down below. Let me know what you think, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.